TSB Talksport Business on Talk 100.3. Lachlan Kitchen and Neil Odger are in the studio, and we are joined by a bona fide TV legend. He didn't want to be referred to as that, but there's no other way to introduce the next man who's been an executive for 10 sports across MENA, the Fox Networks group here in the UAE. But more importantly, CABSAT is going to be kicking off next week, which was traditionally something that was always about, the nuts and bolts and the technology, but it's morphing into more about users and content creators. To get more of it, we are joined in the studio by the legend Sanjay Raina. Thank you very much for coming in here and joining us on TSB.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an amazing opportunity to be talking to you guys.
And so what are you going to do? Tell us how you can rebuild our studios as well? All the new technology we can have?
Well, no need to rebuild anything. I think it's just you guys are doing a fabulous job. Talk 100.3 is an amazing station. I listen to it quite intently. And it intelligizes people. That's the word I use, because talk shows, other than music, are some great fodder for radio. I have always believed that.
And it is because you're accompanying people. You're your friend. You're chatting to them constantly in the foreground. But
very true.
Aside from that, CABSAT, how would you explain it to someone who's not in the industry?
So CABSAT has been always the very large industry event, which was, as you mentioned, more about nuts and bolts and technology and equipment and so on and so forth, and infrastructure. And about 6-7 years back, the CABSAT team intently decided to kind of contentize their whole platform, so create opportunities for content owners and content players to come in and talk. And it's kind of grown, and especially after the pandemic is over last year and beyond that, the Content Congress, as it is called, is an amazing place for people across the industry to come and hobnob, be it from television, be it from film entertainment, be it from radio, be it women. This year there's a panel on women breaking the glass ceiling, all moderated by women, 2 women. So
awesome.
It's a fantastic, and there are some amazing women in this region in the content business that have done some amazing job. And as you know, the content industry has grown by leaps and bounds. People are consuming more content across devices. So it's apt for CABSAT to kind of take note of that and introduce that on a growing scale.
No doubts about this. The growth has been seen, and we've consumed a lot more content, all thanks to COVID as well.
True.
But where does the broadcast industry grow and go from here on? We've gone from cinema to television, or rather television to cinema in either ways, and then content integration happened across both. Movies these days are releasing on television, on streaming platforms. Where does it move on from here on?
So if you really take a step back, nothing much has changed, but a lot has changed.
True.
It's a kind of a paradox. So content, what has substantially happened is the quantum of content has increased by leaps and bounds. So people are producing more because people are watching more, or people are consuming more. What has diametrically shifted is the way people are consuming it. So traditional film entertainment in a theater, where a movie would release and go on for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and then only you would watch it on some other platform, that has kind of got crunched. So that's called windowing in television industry. So those windows have got crunched. It's moved to television, and it stayed on television for a very long time, and then it went to what is called the SVOD game, subscriber VOD, video on demand, which is now turned into an OTT, over-the-top kind of an opportunity. And over-the-top opportunity is both on TV as well as mobile devices. So what you see is a shift in people, the way people watch it. But the normal content has remained the same. It's the same film that has created great value in the theater and then moved on. And people today are making films only for OTT platforms.
Right.
So that consumption pattern has changed.
Do you think it's making better? Do you think that's resulting in better content?
Oh, clearly. I think the reason for film content improving is because great amount of OTT content has really taken shape. And you can just name it, starting from 1 to 100. There are so many shows that are released only on OTT right now, and the quality of those shows, the writing skills of those shows, the directorial strength of those shows is so far better that it has made films getting better.
Right.
So it is. I mean, the writers are the same. Ultimately, it's the same guild, right, around the world.
Yeah, we're in a golden age of television.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you can develop a story rather than 30 minutes across series and weeks and months.
Absolutely.
Well, when it comes to sport on TV, this is one of the really areas that has just been opened up. You know, traditional markets, you had your major players, and now we're seeing, like here, the IPL's on noon, the service, and then you're seeing Amazon, Facebook are putting in bids. Should traditional TV be worried about this, or how can they embrace this opportunity?
Yes and no. I think as long as the sports is a very tedious business, sports rights are normally going for multi-million-dollar bids. So as long as the league owners, like English League, English football, English Premier League, so the FA or whatever those bodies are, as long as they are making their monies by selling that to television networks. So Sky has just renewed their deal. It is going to stay on television, and people generally love to watch sports on a large screen. But there is nibbling happening. So as you refer to the names Amazon and so on and so forth, they are trying to nibble and see what rights they can take away. I think for a very long time, sports will remain on the large linear network. People love to watch it that way. It also is very clear because that gives a whole lot of money to the rights owners. So a Champions League, for example, which is owned by UEFA, is going to get substantially large amount of money by selling their rights to television networks than selling it to an OTT platform. It's a question of money game. And sports also is a loss leader for any platform. On its own, sports does not lead to net revenues. Okay. Sports leads to an aggregation of audience.
Not at this station.
but tell me something, during this IPL, we saw something absolutely dramatic. We saw Viacom bidding in face of Jio Cinema and winning the rights for digital broadcast.
At a huge value.
Right, at insane value. Yes, BCCI obviously ended up being the winner technically because there was Star, there was Jio Cinemas. But the penetration that Jio Cinema or a platform like Jio Cinema has in a country like India is incredible. Will that in some way hamper Star Sports viewership?
And it hasn't. And if you read, I'm not a spokesman of that audience here, that television network here. Sure. But whatever I have read is they have increased their distribution thanks to IPL, and they have increased their viewership thanks to IPL.
Right.
So there is clearly either a doubling of the audience or an expansion of the audience.
Okay.
And I'm more given to think there is an expansion. Of the audience. There is a digital audience who is watching IPL on their small devices or using the so-called Jio Cinema and, putting it up on their television. And there is a traditional audience which doesn't mind seeing it on Star Sports Network with all the razzmatazz of the commentaries in various languages. Clearly, there is an audience available. That's why the Mandarins who bought at such large numbers would have made sense in putting that kind of a number up front. And you said India, clearly it's one country where digital audiences are still, I would say, in infancy. You have just scratched the surface.
Oh, wow.
You wait another 5 years and see the tremendous amount of growth in the digital audiences that's going to happen with people moving from semi-smartphones to a larger and better smartphones, with broadband becoming far better and greater. Digital is going to go through the roof.
Now, we're talking about a tournament which is probably the biggest cricket tournament in the world.
Absolutely.
Right? But, I'll bring it to probably a smaller purview here. A lot of domestic cricket happens here in the UAE. Okay, a lot of, and these are all sanctioned tournaments, right?
Yeah.
And these
especially T20,
right. So now these T20 tournaments, and I'm not even talking about the Abu Dhabi T10 or the IL T20. I'm talking about small tournaments which are organized by the councils like Dubai Council and Abu Dhabi Council. These tournaments are streamed on platforms like Fan Code, and they find audiences.
True.
It is incredible the way this broadcast has also created revenue for the ground owners, for domestic commentators, for camera people. It's like a full year ka project.
And not to mention the fantasy games that are coming through the door every day. And cricket and every other sports is getting massively utilized by those platforms.
Now, this is incredible. I mean, the way it has been moving. Is it probably the the tipping point of something big turning over in smaller countries which don't have audiences?
Local leagues around the world will flourish because larger leagues will have a finite audience,
Right.
will have finite money by people to be put on the table. And if you are able to devise good small local leagues like Emirates does with a lot of their T20 cricket, which I'm aware of, and these will certainly grow. I mean, somebody made a badminton league in UAE, and apparently there was a large traction for that. So if you have quality product, you will have some audience wanting to watch.
But it's also because that supply chain has changed, where the sports organisation can essentially make the content themselves and then stream it and own it, rather than having to wait for a television broadcaster to come in and bring all the gear to produce it.
So technology has throughputed everybody.
Yeah.
So earlier, if you had a sports product as a league owner, you had to go door to door to sell it, till it became better and bigger, and then people came to you and said, "Oh, I want to buy it from you." Today, if you have a great product, you just use technology to deliver it. So that's what I was saying.
Right.
The whole paradigm of delivery has changed dramatically
Across all sports around the world.
across all sports around the world.
But well, when it comes down to TV coverage, what sport and what network do you think is doing the best in terms of coverage and engagement for the
If
for the,
there is
for the
a
viewer?
gold standard, and again, I'm nobody's spokesperson, if there is a gold standard for television sports broadcasting anywhere, I would say it's Sky stroke ESPN
Okay.
globally, because of the kind of coverage when you watch them, the kind of, for example, in one of my previous jobs, we had Sky team come down to UAE to set up their own production facility because they wanted a feed that is equal to
their
the
standard.
standards that they had set, and it was all HD, and we were like blown away in 2012. It is when the Sky team walked in with their HD cameras and 24
And is this
cameras.
specifically cricket you're talking about?
Specifically cricket.
Okay, yeah.
And Sky does golf equally well, and
Yeah.
Sky does football equally well.
Yeah.
ESPN has always been a torchbearer of sports, but largely relegated to America. Our exposure has been far less. But Sky we watch, and I think they are a gold standard in sports broadcasting.
I think sometimes, especially when we watch sports like F1, and we see the cameras that are set up and in cars and the
Absolutely.
communication. As viewers, do
I
you
mean,
think
just to
we've
do-
become lazy and we've been accustomed to just how good the coverage is?
I mean, there was a time when cricket was handled by 8 cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Till then it became 24. And if you watch IPL, I'm sure it's more than 24. Because you just get I mean, that's the whole idea, immersion. You get immersed into that environment, whether it is the spider cams, whether it is the ground cams, whether it is the hand cams, whether it's all those other 20 cameras that are taking you from all the angles, be it the drone level or the ground level. So immersion is the name of the game. And the best part is the equipment costs are going down. So people do not really mind putting all those cameras out there.
I mean, we've been talking extensively about television, cinema. Let's bring the story home. Where does radio go from where it is?
That's a very interesting question. And unfortunately, there are naysayers who always have said two things. Oh, radio will die and linear television will die. Nothing dies. They evolve.
True.
So radio certainly needs to evolve from music, because you cannot keep belting the same horse again and again. Now, what will be that differentiation be is for the audiences to take. I think talk radio is an amazing opportunity, and people are listening, and there are stations, if not naming them, there are stations even in Dubai and adjoining areas where talk shows are doing really well,
Right.
be it business talk shows or non-business talk shows or sports talk shows. I think a lot of the world, and don't get me wrong when I say that, a lot of the world is facing mental issues these days because of pandemic and because of issues of,
Societal
jobs and-
changes, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you have radio stations that dwell upon, so what I'm talking about is segmentation.
That's right.
Radio has to go into a segment, and radio can do it very well. Why? Because radio technology is far cheaper in broadcasting than anybody else.
I agree.
Setting up a radio station is far cheaper than setting up a television station.
Yeah, look at all the people that decided to do a podcast during lockdown.
Exactly. Everybody became a podcaster.
But also the benefit of that is why it's also great, like something like CabSat, where anyone who is maybe thinking about being a content creator and they want to get a start with a small budget on cameras and mics, they can come down and they'll be
Absolutely.
able to find out not just the high end stuff to do a big HD 4K cricket broadcast, but also what would be great to do a wireless mic for your own podcast.
I absolutely agree. And there is a dream of mine. I would like to see a radio station or hear a radio station that has stand-up comedy going through the day. I mean, can you imagine
What, you've not
that?
heard our show?
Well, you guys are comedians, if I really ask you that, because you make us laugh so much. But what I'm saying is, what others do on a stage, people get ticketed. Can you imagine stand-up comedians coming and you intersperse that with music? So digressing, but not really digressing, segmentation is the name of the game. And radio is an amazing business. It can never go out of fashion. It will always remain in.
We love you. You're already our number one guest.
No, absolutely. I love radio.
And lastly, can you help me get Brian Lara on the show?
Brian Lara and me played a round of golf once. He's a left-hander golfer, and he hits a mile.
Yeah.
So you won't stand a chance.
No. Well, if you want to get down to CabSat, you can. It's at the Dubai World Trade Centre from the 16th to the 18th of May at cabsat.com. And Sanjay Raina, the TV legend, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.